Fabulous. Laura, thank you so much. 8:20, the energy regulator, Ofgem, is expected to announce this morning it will drop the amount it allows suppliers to charge us for power.
But despite that, it seems our bills are going to keep rising. And Martin Lewis joins us now. Morning, Martin. Just explain to viewers, I know you've done this so many times, if the price cap set by the regulator is coming down today, why doesn't that mean our bills come down? And why, in fact, are our bills expected to go up in April?
So the energy price cap doesn't dictate the prices that energy retailers can charge consumers. It dictates the price energy retailers can charge. And I'll explain why that's different in a moment. So the current price cap for January until the end of March is £4,300 a year for somebody on typical use. That's a meaningless figure, but it's much easier to explain using it than any other way. And we're expecting it to go down to around £3,300 for somebody on typical use. But since last October, we've also had this thing called the energy price guarantee, which is where the government subsidises energy prices. So if you take the £4,200 at the moment, what we're paying is £2,500. The difference is the amount that the government pays to energy companies. Now, the price cap is due to come down to £3,200, but as it is still higher than the energy price guarantee, we will still pay the energy price guarantee. And on the 1st of April, the government, because it sets the energy price guarantee, not the regulator, not firms, is planning to increase the price from £2,500 a year for someone on typical use by 20%, and that's what everyone should think of. You're going to pay 20% more in England, Scotland and Wales, by 20% to £3,000. But because the cap is still higher than the energy price guarantee, the cap is irrelevant. The prediction is, it's worth noting, from July, the price cap will drop to £2,100. It will now be lower than the energy price guarantee, so we will pay the lower amount. So the government from July will stop subsidising energy prices and we will pay the lower, which is why I wrote to the Chancellor 2 weeks ago saying, please do not do the price increase in April. It will only likely be in effect for 3 months. It seems to be an act of national mental health harm to send millions, almost everybody, a letter saying your energy bills are going to go up by 20% again. Well, they've already more than doubled again. And just for the sake of 3 months, if you instead postpone that rise until July, well, then we'll be back on the price cap. So the energy price guarantee is irrelevant and we get people to escape having to have that price hike. 80 major charities have now supported my call. Energy UK, which is the trade body for the energy industry, has supported the call. And we are asking the government not to do the increase in April. And it is important to state, as a plain fact, the increase coming in April is not due to the price cap, is not due to the regulator, is not due to energy firms. It is a decision by the government. When we talk about broadband and water and other bills, those are prices the government does not have a direct control over. With energy bills, the government has a direct control, and it is government that set prices. And if what we pay goes up by 20%, that's because government has decided it should go up by 20%. And that's what is currently scheduled to happen at the beginning of April.
And Martin, I know it's not your job to tell the government how to pay for that decision, because it would cost money not to go ahead with the rise in the bills. But to take your hand motions just then, if that is the price guarantee...
They were very expensive graphics. I hope I'll be billing GMB for them later.
If the price cap today comes down and comes down by more than people were expecting before because global energy prices have come down a bit, that gap there, that is a small amount the government is having to spend on that subsidy. So if they're saving money because that subsidy is becoming smaller, can't they use some of those savings to stop the price rise in April?
It's almost like you've read my letter, Ed. Yeah, of course. the government is going to be spending a lot less money subsidising energy bills than it had predicted to. For this month, it's coming down by £1,000 pro rata over a year, from 4,200, we think, to 3,300. It's announced at 9 o'clock, but it's going to be in that type of ballpark. And then from July onwards, when it had predicted it would be having to subsidise energy bills, and to give it credit, I mean, people are angry about how much they're paying. To be fair, the government has been paying a chunk of everybody's energy bills, even those people like me who don't need the support, which is a problem with the nature of the system. So yes, it will cost the government roughly £2.5 billion to not increase prices by 20% in April. But it is saving tens of billions of pounds compared to what it thought it would have paid on the energy price guarantee by the end of next year, which is my argument. You're spending a lot less than you thought you would have done, so spend this bit now. Don't send people another round of bill hikes when no one can cope. And importantly, if it does not increase it by 20% in April, then that actually brings inflation down, which is beneficial to the government. So today, the news is about the price cap. That will have an effect. It can change the relationship between the cost of direct debit and prepayment, payment in receipt of bills, and Economy 7. But it'll only be a small effect. The big effect for April to July is it's in the government's hands.
Yeah, it's very technical. The fact of the matter is, when you're paying a bill, it is frightening. Penny has tweeted to us, and a question for you, Martin. I am currently paying more than £500 a month for energy. This new price hike, minus the government help, because of course the £400 energy bill support scheme is also coming to an end, she says, I just can't afford. What's on the horizon, in your expert opinion? Is there any hope, as I don't know how much longer people can continue like this?
So from July, I think prices will start to come down. We're thinking they'll currently, I mean, it won't be huge, but they will be cheaper than they are now. The question is April to July. Now, reading the runes, and I'm just going to phrase it that way, and you'll all forgive me for phrasing it that way, I now think there is a good chance that the government will not do the 20% increase on the 1st of April. I am hopeful that the campaign I've been running, which many people have joined in and others have been saying too, will succeed. And we will get an announcement, and I hope it will be soon, saying there will not be a 20% rise on the 1st of April. Now, I hope it isn't waited until the budget, because if we wait till the budget, energy firms will have had to send the letters telling people there'll be a rise, and then they'll have to send one saying there won't be a rise. And so the announcement should be before the budget. It needs to be in the next week or so to be able to get into that time deadline. But I can't guarantee it, but just, I'm going to use that phrase again, reading the runes, I'm hopeful that this is something that we're not going to see the 20% rise. So prices will stay as they are until July. Then the predictions are, and this is based on wholesale prices, they'll probably drop by about 10% from July onwards and stay at that level until most of the rest of the year. Although there is a bit of crystal ball gazing coming into that.
But they're still massively higher bills than they were a year ago and 2 years ago.
Of course, worldwide energy costs have rocketed. They were rocketing before the hot, terrible war in Ukraine, and then that exacerbated the situation tremendously. And yes, absolutely. Martin, and there will be...
So I was just going to say, just reflecting that point, just because I'm trying to work in some of the questions that we're getting from viewers on this, of course, because Nick says on email, energy companies still posting record profits, of course. Which suggests that they're still charging, says Nick, consumers more than would be necessary to make a fair and reasonable profit. Why does the government or Ofgem not force the energy companies to reduce prices to a level which would allow them to generate a fair and reasonable profit? I mean, it does seem remarkable, Martin, that householders, individuals, families struggling have to pay more while the energy companies are making eye-watering profits.
It does, but that question is not correct. Energy companies are not charging consumers what is above a fair and reasonable profit, because that is what the price cap sets. And at the moment, the price cap, and there's a time lag for it to come down with wholesale prices, is way, way above what we pay because the government subsidises it. Now, the problem with this whole debate is there are two types of energy companies. You have energy retailers. They're the ones who sell us energy, and they're the ones who set the prices to consumers, which is now set by the regulator Ofgem and subsidised by the government. They're the ones that have been going bust because they've been making losses. Then you have energy producers, the ones who actually make the energy, whether they're oil and gas companies or renewables. They're the ones who have had enormous, enormous profits and are making all the money. So the ones that charge us have been making losses, and the ones that make the energy and they have to pay have been making big profits. In some cases, like the owner of British Gas Centrica, they have both. And overall, they have British profits, but they have huge profits. But the rules say when a company's an energy producer and a retailer, it isn't allowed to have cheaper prices for consumers and to subsidise one to the other, because that would break competition law. So I absolutely agree that there have been huge and outrageous profits being made on the back and profiting effectively from the war in Ukraine. But it's been by the energy producers, not the companies who are selling directly to retailers. And that is not regulated by the energy regulator. That would be something that government would have to levy a windfall tax or a bigger windfall tax on top of. So I'm not denying that the big premise, but technically the exact firms that sell us energy, they have a regulated small amount of profit within the price cap, and we're not even being charged the price cap because that has to be subsidised by the government at the moment. So it isn't quite as simple as the question laid out.
Another question for you is from a viewer who asks what I think this viewer thought was quite a specific question, but then she asked around and realised it might be a bigger issue. If someone dies, how easy is it for the next of kin to get the credit balance back from the energy companies? She says she's been trying to help my dad get his brother's balance back from Scottish Power since October last year. It seems they go out of their way, she says, to avoid returning the balances, hoping people give up. I thought it was an isolated case, but a friend said he had to call Sky and pretend to be his deceased father in order to close the account and cancel the direct debits. I suspect it is a bigger problem and wonders whether you might be able to address it, Martin.
Well, there are always problems on those issues. There is something called the Bereaved Preference Service. I'm doing that from memory. I hope I've got the name right, where you can register that someone has passed away, and it should mean that to most public service companies are notified of the issue that goes on. In terms of the bill, you mentioned those two words, which whenever I hear billing problems, I always expect to hear the word Scottish Power, because the two go together hand in hand. So Scottish Power systems tend to be pretty poor on these type of things, which could be one of the reasons. If somebody has passed away, whoever has taken over the bill or who is legally taking over the accounts from the person, if there is too much credit and they're not paying that gas and electricity anymore, then that credit should be paid back. But it would work in the same circumstances as if the individual was still here and needed the credit to come back. Whose is the account? Are you still paying for energy for that home, for that property? In which case, if the credit is there and the credit is needed through winter, then they don't necessarily have to give it you back. So it is a complicated question. But sadly, yes, there are a lot of problems that come around bereavement and changing bills, not just in the energy industry, in broadband and TV and banking, and getting it done. It should be a smoother system. Things have been put in place to try and make it smoother, but it's far from perfect for everybody.
Thank you, Martin. Your letter was so important when you sent it to the Chancellor in February. Now, I know that you aren't leaking any budget secrets. You're just reading the runes. But if your reading of the runes means that the Chancellor doesn't go ahead with that £500 rise in the average bill in April, then that will be a very, very good outcome.
Well, my fingers are crossed, but I don't know.
No, you're just reading the runes.
I don't know, but
it will send chills down the spines of Treasury officials.
There is a better than 50-50 chance is where I now sit it at. Better than 50-50 chance that it won't happen. But I don't know, and it still could happen. And for all the charities who've supported me and put the pressure on, let's continue to do so, because we need this result.
Thank you, Martin. Let's hope you're reading the right runes.
Yeah, Martin, thank you so much. And we will get in touch with Scottish Power about that case of the bereaved family and their struggle to get that credit back. Lorraine is here at 9. Morning.
Hi,
Are you feeling better, Lorraine?
Much better, thank you. And can I say a massive thank you to Ranveer, who, when I was sent home on Wednesday,